In this video, we dive into the movie Puss in Boots 2011. We will explore the storyline, give a clear summary of the plot, and take a closer look at the cast and the characters. Additionally, we will cover the film production detail and its box office performance. Finally, we will share reviews along with personal reaction. So let's get started. When we begin talking about Puss in Boots, it's important to slow down and appreciate why this film deserves a thoughtful discussion. At first glance, it may seem like just another animated spin off from the Shark universe, but the moment you look a little deeper, you realize there is a lot more going on beneath its playful surface. Let's start with the genre. This movie sits at an interesting crossroad between fantasy, adventure, and comedy. But what makes it stand out is how heavily it borrows from the classic Schwab-Buchler style. Think of old world fighting tales filled with charm, danger, and dramatic flair. The character of Puss in Boots himself feel inspired by legendary heroes like Zorro, blending elegance with humor. The film does not just tell a story, it performs it with dramatic duels, slow motion action, and theatrical storytelling that feel almost like a stage play brought to life through animation. Now, shifting our push to the director Chris Miller, we can see a clear intention behind the film tone and pacing. Miller does not rush the narrative, instead, he allows moment to breathe, whether it's a quiet flashback revealing Puss past or a tense standoff between characters. This approach gives the movie emotional depth, something that might surprise viewers expecting only light-hearted fun. The balance between humor and seriousness is carefully maintained, making the film accessible for younger audience while still engaging for older viewers. The production style is another reason this movie is worth discussing. Visually, the film is rich in texture with a strong emphasis on atmosphere. The setting from dusty desert town to magical sky castle feel vibrant and alive. There is a noticeable influence of Western film in the design, especially in the use of wild landscape and dramatic lighting. At the same time, the animation captures subtitle character expression, particularly those iconic wild, innocent eyes of Puss, which have become a defining feature of the character. What's especially interesting is how the films blend traditional fairy tale element with a modern storytelling approach. Characters like Humpty Dumpty are reimagined in a way that add complexity and emotional weight. He is not just a simple nursery rhyme figure. He became a key part of the film's emotional core. Similarly, Kite Soft Paws brings a layer of mystery and strength, challenging Puss both physically and emotionally. As a viewers warming up this discussion, is worth noting that Puss in Boots is not just about action or comedy; it's about identity, trust, and redemption. These themes are woven into the film in a way that feel natural rather than forced. The movie invites viewers to reflect on choices, consequences, and the idea of second chances, all while keeping the tone entertaining and visually engaging. So, before diving deeper into the plot or character, it's clear that this film earned its place in conservation. Through its unique genre blend, thoughtful direction, visually striking production style, the film offers more than simple entertainment. It provides a layered cinematic experience that reward both casual viewer and those willing to look a little closer. While examining the production budget of the film, it is useful to approach it with a calm and neutral perspective, focusing on how financial resources were planned and distributed. The film had an estimated production cost of around $130 million, placing it comfortably within the range of major animated release of its time. This level of investment reflects both the expectation tied to well-known characters and technical demand of high-quality computer animation. A large portion of this budget was dedicated to animation and visual development as a project produced by DreamWorks Animation. The film relies on advanced CGI techniques that require extensive rendering power, skill artists, and long production timelines. creating detailed environments such as desert landscape and fantasy setting involve careful design and layering. Additionally, character animation, especially for expressive figures like Puss in Boots, demanding precision to capture subtitle emotion and physical movement. Action scenes, including words, fights, and chase sequence, further increase cost due to their complexity and need for fluid motion. Another significant share of the budget went toward voice acting. The casting of recognizable performers like Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek added both financial weight and marketing value. Well known actors often command higher salaries, but their involvement helped broaden the film appeal and strengthen its promotional reach. This type of investment is common in animated films where voice performance play a central role in character identity. Resources were also allocated to music, sound design, and post production. The film soundtrack incorporated stylistic influence that matches its adventure and culturally inspired tone, requiring professional composition and recording. Sound effects, which enhance action and atmosphere, are another layer of technical work that contribute to the overall post production processes such as editing, lighting adjustment, and financial rendering are essential in animation and often require substantial time and financial input. When compared to the similar film, the budget of Puss in Boots appear moderate rather than extreme. For example, Kung Fu Panda 2, released in the same year by the same studio, had a slightly higher budget, reflecting its role as a direct sequel with expanding scale and more complex sequence. In contrast, Despicable Me was produced with a much lower budget, highlighting a different production philosophy focused on cost efficiency and simpler visual design. These comparisons show that Puss in Boots was positioned between high cost blockbuster animation and more economical production. Overall, the financial structure of the film suggests a carefully balanced approach. The investment was substantial enough to ensure strong visual quality, recognizable talent, and polished storytelling. But it avoided the highest level of spending seen in some franchise sequel. This indicates a strategy aimed at maintaining high standard while managing risk, especially for spin-off rather than a main series installment. When discussing the genre and overall mood of the film, it becomes clear that the film operates within a layered blend of style rather than a simple fixed category. At its core, it belongs to the animated fantasy adventure genre, but it is strongly influenced by the tradition of swashbuckling cinema and classic Western aesthetic. This combination created a distinct identity that separated it from many animated films of its time. The atmosphere is one of stylized drama mixed with playful charm. Visually, the film lean into warm, earthy tones and dramatic lighting that echo the feel of old frontier landscape. Dusty environment, open spaces, and carefully framed silhouettes contribute a cinematic textures that feel almost live action in inspiration despite being fully animated. This stylistic direction gives the film a sense of scale and immersion, making the world feel expansive rather than confined to a typical cartoon setting. At the same time, the mood is consistently balanced with a sense of lightness. There is a clear awareness of humor and theatrical exaggeration which prevent the film from becoming overly serious. The tone shifts smoothly between moments of quiet intensity and bursts of energetic playfulness. This dynamic range allows the film to appeal to a wide audience, maintaining engagement without overwhelming viewers with a single emotional note. Pacing play a key role in shaping the overall experience. The film does not rush its sequence; instead, it allows scene to unfold with a deliberate rhythm. Moment of action are often followed by slower, more reflective pauses, creating a natural ebb and flow. This pacing mirrored the style of classic adventure film, where tension is built gradually and then released through carefully choreographed movement. The result is a viewing experience that feels controlled and intentional rather than chaotic. The tone is also influenced by elements of theatrical performance. The central presence of the film brings a sense of flair and exaggeration that shapes the entire film. Movement, gestures, and even silence are used expressively, almost as if the character is performing for an audience within the word itself. This adds a layer of sophistication to the humor as it relies not only on dialogue but also on timing, posture, and visual cues. Stylistically, the film draws inspiration from a variety of sources. There are clear nods to classic swords, fighting films where elegance and precision are emphasized over brute force. At the same time, the influence of Western cinema is visible in the framing of shoots and the use of music to heighten tension. The soundtrack play an important role in reinforcing the mood, often blending rhythmic intensity with a soft and melodic element to match the shifting tone of the visual. Another notable aspect of the mood is its sense of confidence. The film presents itself with a clear identity, never seeming uncertain about its style or direction. This confidence allows it to experiment with contrast, combining humor with seriousness and simplicity with detail without losing coherence. The result is a polished and cohesive atmosphere that feels carefully constructed. Overall, the genre and the mood of the film are defined by their balance. It is an animated film that embraces both fantasy and realism in its presentation, combining adventurous energy with controlled pacing and expressive style. Through its atmospheric design, tonal variation, and deliberate stylistic choices, the film creates a mood that is engaging, distinctive, and consistently refined. When considering audience expectation before watching the film, it is important to understand how different group of viewers approach the film with varying assumptions. These expectations are shaped by familiarity with the character, the broader animated genre, and the reputation of the studio behind the project. When a viewer's demographic perspective, families and younger audiences are likely to expect a film entertaining animated experience, given that the film originates from the shark universe. Parents may anticipate humors that work on two levels: simple visual comedy for children and more suitable subtitle witty elements for adults. There is often an expectation of accessibility, meaning the film should be easy to follow, visually engaging, and emotionally safe for a wide age range. At the same time, older viewers, including teenagers and adults, may approach the film with a slightly different expectation. They might be looking for clever dialogue, stylistic flair, or a fresh take that justify the existence of a spin-off centered on a simple characters like Puss in Boots. Another important factor is the expectation tied to the studio. DreamWorks Animation. By the time the film was released, DreamWorks had established a reputation for producing animated movies that blend humor with emotional undertone. Viewers familiar with the studio's previous work may expect a certain level of visual quality, polished animation, and narrative that balance comedy with moment of sincerity. This creates a baseline expectation that the film will not only entertain but also provide some degree of emotional engagement. Looking at anticipated themes, audience might expect familiar ideas such as heroism, friendship, and personal growth. Because the central character is already known for charm and confidence, viewers may anticipate a focus on identity or reputation even before seeing the film. There is also often an expectation of moral clarity in animated films, especially for younger audience where character and situation ultimately reinforces positive values. However, older viewers might anticipate a slightly more novice approach given the character complexity and the potential for deeper emotional layer. Expectations are also shaped by given genre, particularly those who enjoy animated fantasy or adventure films. Fans of this genre often look forward to imaginative setting, creative character design, and a sense of escapism. In this case, the film there may also be the expectation of stylistic uniqueness. The character personality suggests that influence from swashbuckling adventure and classic heroic archetypes, so genre enthusiasm might anticipate stylized action, dramatic flair, and a strong visual identity. Additionally, viewers who are familiar with spin-off film may approach this movie with a degree of skepticism. Spin-off can sometimes be seen as less essential or more commercially driven than the main series entry. As a result, some audience members may expect the film to rely heavily on the popularity of its central character rather than offering something new. This creates a higher expectation for originality, as the film must prove that it can stand on its own rather than simply extending or existing franchise. Marketing and emotional material also play a role in shaping expectation. Trailers, posters, and voice casting announcements contribute to the perception that the film will be energetic, humorous, and visually appealing. The involvement of well-known actors like Antonio Banderas can lead audience to expect strong vocal performances and a charismatic central presence. Another layer of expectation comes from the tone typically associated with animated films of this type. Viewers often anticipate a balance between action and humor, with a pacing that keeps the audience lively without becoming overwhelming. There is also an expectation of visual creativity, including expressive character animation and detailed environment, which is standard feature in high budget animated production. Audience expectation before watching the film are shaped by a combination of demographic factors, genre familiarity, and a prior knowledge of the characters and the studio. Families expect accessible entertainment. Genre fan look for stylistic and imaginative element, and a more critical viewers may seek originality and depth. These overlapping expectations create a complex framework through which the film is initially perceived, even before the first scene being. When examining the target audience of the film, it becomes clear that the film is designed to appeal to a broad and a layered group of viewers rather than a single narrowly defined category. Its construction reflects a deliberate effort to engage multiple age groups, interest, and a genre preferences at the same time. Starting with the age group, the film is primarily aimed at children and the family. Younger viewers, particularly those in the range of 6 to 12 old, are a central part of the intended audience. The animation style, expressive characters, and visually engaging environment are all tailored to capture the attention of this group. The pacing is generally accessible, ensuring that the children can remain engaged without feeling overwhelmed or confused. At the same time, the film avoids becoming overly simplistic, which allow it to extend its appeal beyond just young viewers. Teenagers represent another important segment of the target audience. For this group, the appeal lies more in the film style and tone rather than just its visual element. The presence of action-oriented sequence, stylized movement, and a confident central characters like Puss in Boots make the film more engaging for viewers who may be transitioning away from purely child-focused content. Teen audience often look for entertainment that feels slightly more mature in presentation, even within an animated format, and this film accommodates that expectation through its stylistic choices. Adults, particularly parents from the third major layer of the target audience, as a production from DreamWorks Animation, the film follows a pattern of including humor and dialogue that can be appreciated on multiple levels. This ensures that adults watching alongside children can remain entertained. The tone avoid being overly juvenile, which help maintain interest for older viewers who may be critical of storytelling and presentation. Additionally, the polished animation and cinematic style contribute to a viewing experience that feels substantial rather than disposable. In terms of interest, the film is particularly suited for viewers who enjoy light-hearted adventure and visually driven storytelling. Those who appreciate animated world, expressive character design, and dynamic moments are likely to find the film. The emphasis on style and atmosphere also make it appealing to viewers who value visual creativity. It is not aimed at audience seeking realism or highly complex narrative. Instead, it caters to those who enjoy imaginative setting and a sense of escapism. Another key interest group include viewers who are already familiar with the broader shark universe. While prior knowledge is not required, fan of the series may feel a stronger connection to the characters and the setting. This familiarity can enhance engagement as the film builds on an already recognizable figure while presenting him in a new context. However, the film is also structured in a way that allows new viewers to approach it without needing background knowledge, which broaden its accessibility. Looking at genre preferences, the film is more clearly targeted toward fans of animated fantasy and adventure viewers who enjoy stories with energetic pacing, stylized action, and a blend of humor and drama are the primary audience. The film's tone and presentation also make it suitable for those who appreciate a slightly theatrical approach to storytelling, where gestures, expression, and the visual flair play a significant role. At the same time, it may be less appealing to viewers who prefer slow dialogue, heavy dramas, or highly realistic storytelling. Its focus on animation and stylization mean that it is designed for audience who are open to exaggerated movement and expressive visuals. Similarly, viewers seeking intense or emotionally heavy narrative may find the film lighter than their usual preferences. Overall, the target audience of the film can be understood as a wide but carefully considered group. It is primarily made for families and younger viewers while the still offering enough stylistic depth and entertainment value to engage in teenager and adult. By balancing accessibility with visual sophistication, the film successfully positions itself as a versatile piece of entertainment that can be enjoyed across different age group and interest level. When considering the emotional experience promised by the film, it is helpful to think in terms of how the film shapes feeling through mood, underlying theme, that its intended impact on the viewers. Other than focusing on specific event, the film creates an emotional journey that is carefully balanced, accessible, and consistently engaging. In terms of mood, the film establishes a blend of light-hearted charm and controlled intensity. There is a constant sense of playfulness that runs through its presentation, largely influenced by the expressive personality of Puss in Boots. This playful tone is not random, it is structured to keep the viewers comfortable and entertained. Even in moments that carry tension, the mood rarely becomes overwhelming. Instead, the film maintains a sense of emotional safety, ensuring that audience, especially younger viewers, can enjoy the experience without feeling distressed. At the same time, the mood is not entirely superficial. There are subtitle shifts that introduce a more reflective atmosphere when needed. These quieter emotional tone create contrast, allow the film to feel dynamic rather than one dimensional. The balance between energetic and calm moment contribute to a rhythm that keep the audience emotionally engaged throughout. This combination of warmth and mild tension form the foundation of the film's emotional identity. Looking at the theme, the film is structured around ideas that are universally relatable, even when presentation in a stylized and animated format. Themes such as identity, trust, and personal growth are embedded into the emotional framework. These themes are not presenting in a heavy or overly serious way, instead, they are woven gently into the overall tone. This approach allows the film to communicate meaningfully ideas without disrupting its entertaining surface. The emotional experience is also shaped by a sense of aspiration. The central figure represents confidence, style, and determination, which create a feeling of admiration and aspiration. Viewers are encouraged to connect with qualities such as bravery and self belief, even if these are presenting in an exaggerated or theoretical manner. These Aspirational elements contribute to a positive emotional tone, reinforcing the idea that challenge can be faced with courage and personality. Another important aspect is the sense of connection. The film encourages viewers to reflect on relationship and interaction, particularly in terms of trust and loyalty. While the presentation remain accessible, these underlying ideas add depth to the emotional experience. The audience is not only entertained but also subtly invited to think about how individuals relate to one another and how those relationships influence personal growth. In terms of intended impact, the film aimed to leave the viewers with a feeling of satisfaction and upliftment. It is designed to be enjoyable in the moment while also providing a sense of pleasure that feel emotionally complete. The balance of humor, style, and light emotional depth ensure that the experience is neither too heavy nor too shallow. This makes it particularly effective for family viewing where different age group can take away different emotional impression. For younger audience, the intended effect is primarily one of enjoyment and excitement. The films offer a safe, emotional space where viewers can experience tension and resolution without discomfort. For older viewers, the impact may be slightly more reflective as the themes and the tonal shift provide moment of subtitle emotional engagement. In both cases, the film aimed to create a lasting impression that is positive rather than challenging. Overall, the emotional experience of the film is defined by its careful balance. It combines a playful mood with meaningful themes and deliver an impact that is both entertaining and gently reflective. By maintaining this balance, the film succeeds in creating an emotional journey that feels complete, approachable, and consistently engaging for a wide audience. At its core, the film presents a story concept that revolve around identity, perception, and the continuous negotiation between personal intention and public image, rather than functionally purely as an external adventure. The film operates on a more abstract level as an exploration of how individuals define themselves in relation to their past, their choices, and the expectation placed upon them. One of the most central themes embedded within the film is the idea of constructed identity. The figure of the film represents more than a heroic persona. He embodies the tension between authenticity and performance. His outward confidence, elegance, and the theatrical presence suggests that the identity is not fixed but actively shaped through behavior and presentation. This creates an ongoing question: is identity something inherently stable, or is it something that must be consistently maintained through action and perception? The film does not offer a rigid answer but instead frame identity as fluid, influenced by both internal values and external recognition. Closely connected to this is the theme of reputation versus truth. The narrative concept suggests that the public perception can diverge significantly through personal reality. This introduces the idea that individuals may find themselves defined by narrative that did not fully control. Within this framework, the story becomes an abstract examination of how one responds to misalignment between who they believe they are and how they are perceived by others. The emotional weight of this concept lies not in specific event but in the broader human experience of wanting to be understood accurately. Another important message within the film is the notion of redemption as an ongoing process rather than a simple transformative moment. A redemption in this content is not presenting as a clear endpoint but as the continuous effort to align one's action with one's value. This perspective emphasizes growth over perfection. It suggests that the past can't be erased but it can be reinterpreted through present choices. The story concept encourages the viewer to consider redemption not as a dramatic shift but as a gradual rebuilding of trust both internally and externally. The film also engaged within the theme of trust and rational dynamic. Trust is portrayed as something inherently fragile, shaped by both intention and consequence. The abstract idea here is that relationship function as mirror reflecting aspect of identity that may not be visible in isolation. Through intersection with other individuals are forced to confront inconsistencies, reassess their assumption and negotiate their sense of self. This operates a layer understanding of connection where trust is not simply given or lost but consistently tested and redefined. In terms of story concept, the film can be seen as a symbolic journey towards self-integration rather than focusing on external achievement. The deeper narrative movement involved reconciling different aspects of identity, past and present, intention and action, perception and reality. This journey is not linear, it involves moment of functionality, reflection, and recalibration. This emphasis is on internal coherence, suggested that true resolution comes from external validation but from a clear alignment between who one is and how one chooses to act. Another layer of the core idea involved the role of aspiration. The central figure embodies an idealized version of confidence and capability for which function as both a goal and a mask. This dual highlight the tension between aspiration and authenticity. On one hand, aspiration drives growth and motivate action. On the other hand, it can create distance from one's genuine self if it becomes purely performative. The film subtly explores this balance, suggesting that aspiration must remain connected to authenticity in order to be meaningful. The tone of the film's conceptual framework is ultimately constructive rather than critical. One, while it acknowledges complexity and ambiguity, it leans toward the possibility of resolution and improvement. The message is not that identity is unstable or unreliable, but that it is adaptable and capable of refinement. This perspective encourages a sense of agency, reinforcing the idea that individuals have the capacity to influence how their stories evolve over time. Finally, the film's core idea can be understood as an exploration of the narrative ownership. It raises the question of who controls the story of a person's life, the individual themselves, or the collective perception of the other. The answer suggested by the film is not absolute. Instead, it proposes that while external narrative may shape perception, individuals retain the ability to redefine their direction through conscious choice. This creates a sense of empowerment, positioning the story as one of ongoing authorship rather than fixed destiny. The films operate an abstract level as a meditation on identity, perception, and growth. Through its theme of constructed identity, redemption, trust, and aspiration, it presents a story concept that extends beyond surface level entertainment. It invites the viewer to consider how individuals navigate the space between who they are, who they appear to be, and who they aspire to become, ultimately framing life itself as an evolving narrative shaped by both choice and interpretation. The central conflict within the film can be understood not as a single external struggle but as a layered tension between identity, morality, and personal responsibility. Rather than relying solely on physical obstacle, the film built its core conflict around internal dilemmas that continuously challenge the sense of self and the choice that define it. At the heart of this conflict lies a moral dilemma. Given the gap between intention and consequence, an individual may act with a certain belief or purposes, yet the outcome of those actions can create a different reality altogether. This creates a persistent tension. Should one be judged by what they intended to do or by what actually happened? The film positioned this question as a central to the emotional and ethical struggle, suggesting that both perspectives carry weight. This dilemma forces the individual to confront the discomfort of ambiguity, where clear right and wrong distinction are not always available. Closely tied to this is the challenge of reputation versus self perception. The central figure Puss in Boots exist within a space where external judgment and internal identity do not fully align. This misalignment becomes a source of ongoing tension as it raises the question of whether identity is something that can be independently defined or if it is inevitable, shaped by how others perceive it. The conflict here is not just about changing opinion, but about reconciling two competing versions of the self, the one that is lived internally and the one that is constructed externally. Another significant layer of the conflict involves the concept of trust, both in oneself and the in the trust operates as a fragile and dynamic force easily influenced by past experience, but also to decide how much weight should be given to past event when forming present judgment. This can create a tension between caution and openness. Being too cautious can lead to isolation, while being too open can result in vulnerability. The film explores this balance, positioning trust as a necessary but risky component of personal growth. The conflict also extends into the realm of loyalty and obligation. There is an inherent tension between personal goal and the expectation or the connection that bind individuals to others. This raises the question of priority. Should one pursue individual fulfillment or honor a rational commitment? The answer is not straightforward as both paths can carry emotional and ethical implications. The struggle lies in finding a way to navigate these competing demands without compromising core values. In addition, the film presents a challenge related to redemption and accountability. The idea of redemption introduced the forward looking perspective suggests that change and improvement are possible. However, this is counterbalanced by the concept of accountability, which required acknowledgement of past action and their impact. The tension here rises from the need to balance these two forces moving forward while still recognizing what has already occurred. This can create a complex emotional space where progress is possible, but not without reflection and responsibility. Another dimension of the central conflict is the tension between authenticity and the performance. The central character embodies a persona that is both genuine and shaped by presentation. The challenge lies in maintaining authenticity while also navigating social expectation. The tension is particularly significant because it influences how others respond and how the individual understand themselves. The conflict is not about rejecting performances entirely, but about ensuring that it does not replace authenticity. The film also engages with the idea of choice under uncertainty. Many of the challenges faced are not accompa- accompanied by clear guidance or predictable outcome. This can create a situation where guidance must be made without full knowledge of their consequences. The tension here lies in the risk inherent in every choice. Acting decisively requires confidence, but uncertainty introduced doubt. This dynamic reflects a broader human experience where choices often involve navigating incomplete information and accepting the possibility of unintended results. Ultimately, the central conflict can be seen as a negotiation between past and present, self and society, intention and outcome. It is not resolved through a single action or decision but through an ongoing process of reflection and adjustment. The film frames conflict not as something to be eliminated but as something that drives growth and self understanding. The central conflict of the film is deeply rooted in moral dilemmas, personal challenges, and sustained tension. It explores the complexity of identity, trust, loyalty, redemption without relying on simple answers. By focusing on these abstract struggles, the film creates a conflict that is both engaging and relatable, engaging the viewers to consider how similar tension operate within their own experience. When examining the thematic structure of the film, it becomes clear that the film operates on multiple levels, blending accessible ideas with deeper conceptual layers. The themes are not presented in isolation, rather they interact with one another, forming a cohesive framework that shapes the viewer's understanding of the film's emotional and ethical landscape. One of the most prominent areas of exploration involve ethical questions, particularly those surrounding responsibility and judgment. The film raises the question of how individuals should be evaluated by their intention, their action, or the outcome that follow. This is not a simple moral equation. Intention may be sincere, yet consequence can still produce harm. Conversely, outcomes may appear positive even if the motivation behind them are unclear. The tension encourages the viewer to think beyond binary notion of right and wrong, suggesting that the morality often exists within a spectrum rather than fixed categories. Another ethical dimension involves the concept of personal accountability. The film suggests that the individuals can't fully separate themselves from the result of their choices, even when those results are unintended. This introduces a subtitle but important message: growth required acknowledgement. Avoiding responsibility may preserve comfort in the short term, but it ultimately limits the possibility of meaningful change. In this sense, the film frames accountability not as punishment but as a necessary step towards self awareness and development. Closely linked to these ethical concerns are the film's emotional arc, which revolve around identity, trust, and reconciliation. The central emotional journey represented through Puss in Boots is not simply about external validation but about internal alignment. There is a gradual movement from uncertainty toward clarity, where the character must reconcile different movement from uncertainty toward clarity, where the character must reconcile different aspects of the first self, past experience, present choices, and the future aspiration. This emotional arc is subtitle and layer, emphasizes reflection rather than dramatic transformation. Trust play a crucial role within this emotional development. It is portrayed as something that must be earned, tested, and something rebuilt. The film explores how trust is influenced by both personal history and present behavior, creating a dynamic where relationships are constantly evolving. This adds emotional depth that trust is not treated as a static condition but as an ongoing process that requires effort and vulnerability. Another important emotional theme is the idea of belonging and connection. The film suggests that the identity is not formed in isolation but through interaction with others. Relationship act as a mirror reflecting strength, weakness, and unresolved tension. The perspective highlight the importance of connection while also acknowledging its complexity. Belonging is not guaranteed; it must be negotiation and maintained through mutual understanding. In terms of cultural topic, the film draws on a blend of influences that shape its thematic presentation. There is a strong presence of storytelling traditions associated with heroism and folklore, where characters are defined by reputation or a symbolic role. These elements reflect broader cultural narrative about what it means to be hero. At the same time, the film subtly questions these traditional ideas by introducing ambiguity and imperfection. Heroism is not portrayed as flawless, it is shown as something that must be continually earned and redefined. The stylistic influence of swash, buckling, and western inspired aesthetic also contribute to the thematic depth. These genres often emphasize individualism, courage, and personal core, and the film incorporate these ideas while adding a layer of introspection. This creates a dialogue between traditional heroic ideals and a more modern perspective that values emotional awareness and ethical complexity. And other cultural aspect worth noting is the emphasis on performances and presentation. The central character, expressive and theatrical nature, suggests a cultural appreciation for charisma and style. However, this is balanced by an underlying question about authenticity. The film invites viewer to consider whether outward presentation and enhance or obscure true identity, creating a subtitle tension between appearance and reality. The theme of aspiration also plays a significant role. The film reflects a broader cultural belief in self-improvement and the possibility of the change. Aspiration is portrayed as both motivating and challenging, as it requires individuals to confront their limitation while striving for something greater. This aligns with the universal narrative about growth, where progress is achieved through persistence and reflection. Ultimately, the theme explored in the film form a complex network of ideas that extend beyond surface level entertainment. Through its ethical question, emotional arc, and cultural influence, the film engages with concepts such as responsibility, trust, identity, and aspiration. These themes are presented in a way that is both accessible yet thought provoking. allowing viewers of different age to connect with the films on multiple levels. The film's thematic depth lies in its ability to balance simplicity with complexity. It offers clear and relatable ideas while also encouraging deeper reflection on moral and emotional questions. By weaving together ethical consideration, personal growth, and culture influence, the films create a rich thematic experience that resonates beyond its animated form. The emotional connection created by the film is built through a careful blend of mood, thematic depth, and the overall viewer experience. Rather than relying solely on dramatic intensity, the film develops a steady emotional engagement that feels accessible, balanced, and gradually immersive. It invites the audience not just to watch but to feel connected in subtitle and lasting way. Starting with mood, the film establishing an inviting emotional atmosphere that is both warm and dynamic. There is a consistent sense of charm and playfulness, largely shaped by the expressive personality of the film. This charm acts as an entry point, making it easy for viewer to engage without resistance. The mood is intentionally approachable, ensuring that the audience of all age can find comfort in the experience. At the same time, the film introduces gentle shift toward more reflective tone, creating emotional variation. These shifts are not abrupt; they are gradual, allowing viewers to transition naturally between light-hearted enjoyment and quieter contemplation. This balance in mood play a crucial role in forming emotional attachment. When a film remains entirely comedic or entirely serious, it risks limiting its impact. Here, the mixture allows viewers to relax while still remaining emotionally open. The lighter moment build familiarity and reflection, while the other subdued tones create space for deeper reflection. This combination strengthens the overall connection as it mirrors the emotional rhyme found in real life experience. The film connects with viewers through ideas that are both universal and relatable. Themes such as identity, trust, and emotional growth are central to the emotional experience. These concepts resonate because they reflect common human concern. The idea of wanting to be understood by the experience. By presenting the theme in a clear yet non-heavy manner, the film ensures that they are felt rather than forced. The theme of identity is particularly significant in shaping the emotional connection. Viewers are drawn to the idea of defining oneself while navigating external expectations. This creates a subtitle sense of empathy as audience recognize the tension between who they are and how they are perceived. The film does not present this struggle in a complicated or abstract way. Instead, it follows viewer to experience through tone and characterization, making the connection more intuitive. Trust is another theme that deepens emotional engagement. The film portrays trust as something that evolves over time, influenced by both past experience and present choices. This dynamic approach reflects real life relationship where trust is really simple or fake. As a result, viewers are able to connect emotionally because they recognize the uncertainty and vulnerability involved. This recognition fosters empathy, drawing the audience closer to the emotional core of the film. Viewer experience. The film is designed to create a sense of involvement without overwhelming the audience. The pacing, tone, and visual style work together to maintain engagement while allowing space for emotional absorption. Viewers are not rushed through the experience, instead, they are given time to process and respond to what they are seeing. This measured approach enhances the emotional connection as it encourages reflection rather than passive assumption. The expressive qualities of the film also play a significant role in shaping the viewer's experience. His gesture, expression, and the overall presence create a strong sense of personality that feel both entertaining and relatable. This expressiveness allows the viewer to connect on a more immediate level as emotions are communicated clearly and effectively through visual cues. Even without relying heavily on dialogue, the character's behavior convey feeling that audience can easily understand. Another important aspect of the viewer experience is the sense of emotional safety. The film maintains a tone that is engaging but not distressing, making it suitable for a wide audience. This sense of safety allows viewer to invest emotionally without fear of discomfort. It creates an environment where emotion can be explored in a controlled and reassuring way, which is particularly important for younger audience. At the same time, the film does not avoid emotional depth entirely. It introduces moments that encourages viewer to think and feel beyond the surface level. These moments are clearly integrated, ensuring that they enhance rather than disrupt the overall experience. For older viewer, this add a layer of meaning, making the film feel more substantial and rewarding. Ultimately, the emotional connection in the film is built through a combination of inviting, more relatable theme and thoughtful design viewer experience. It does not rely on extreme emotional highs or low. Instead, it creates a steady and consistent engagement that feel natural and genuine. By balancing charm with reflection and simplicity with depth, the film succeeds in forming a connection that is both immediate and enduring. A closer look at the character dynamic in the film revolve a cast built around familiar archetype yet defined with enough notes to sustain engagement beyond surface level role. From a reviewer perspective, the strength of the film lies in how these characters balance recognizable trait with subtitle emotional complexity. At the center is Puss in Boots, who function as a primarily main character and clearly embodies the charming rogue archetype. He is confident, stylish, and highly self aware, presenting himself with a sense of theatrical flair that defines his presence in clearly every scene. His personality traits include charisma, bravery, and a strong desire for recognition. However, what makes him more than a standard archetype is the underlying tension between his outward confidence and his internal uncertainty. As a reviewer, it becomes evident that his duality is essential to his appeal. He is not simply a hero, he is a figure negotiating how he is seen versus how he sees himself. This adds a reflective quality to his characterization, making him more engaging than a purely action driven protagonist. From an archetypal standpoint, Puss also aligning with the masked hero figure similar to the classic swashbuckling icon. His behavior often feels performative, as though he is consciously embodies a role. This creates a layer personality where confidence may function as both genuine strength and protective mechanism. The film subtly suggests that identity in his case is something actively constructive rather than inheritedly fixed. This gives the character a degree of psychological depth even within a stylized and animated framework. In contrast, Kaiti softpaws represent the co-main actor and fit the skill counterpart archetype. She is composed, intelligent, and Meyer, offering a balance to Puss' more expressive and flamboyant nature. Her personality traits include independence, precision, and emotional restraint. As a viewer, one can observe that her role is not simply sportive. She challenges a central figure both intellectually and emotionally. This dynamic prevents the narrative from becoming one-sided as she introduces a different perspective on trust, control, and vulnerability. Kaiti characterization also reflects the guarded partner archetype, where strength is paired with a degree of emotional distance. This makes her interaction feel as her action often carry emotional beyond what is immediately visible. Her present attention in a subtitle way, not through overt conflict but through contrast. She represents a more grounded approach to the world, which highlight the theoretical nature of Puss' personality even further. And then there is a Humpty Dumpty, who serves as a central sporting character and embodies a more complex, ambiguous ally archetype. Her personality is defined by intelligence, unpredictability, and emotional depth. Unlike more straightforward character, he operates within a space of uncertainty where motivation are not always transparent. This makes him more particularly interesting from a reviewer standpoint, as he introduces moral and emotional tension without relying on traditionally villainy. Humpty traits suggest a combination of ambition and vulnerability. He appears confident in his intellect, yet there is an undercurrent of emotional instability that influences his behavior. This duality makes him difficult to categorize, which is precisely what gives his character weight. He challenges the audience to reconsider simple labels such as friend or opponent, reinforcing the film broader thematic interest in complexity and perception. From a structural perspective, these three characters form a balanced triangle of archetype and personality trait. The film represents expression and aspiration. Coyote softpaws embodies control and precision, and Humpty Dumpty introduce ambiguity and emotional tension. Together, they create a dynamic that feels cohesive without becoming predictable. Each character reflects a different approach to identity and interaction, which allow the film to explore its theme through contrast rather than repetition. What stands out most in this character analysis is how the film avoid reducing its cast to purely functional role. While the archetypes are clearly recognizable, they are not rigid. Each character demonstrates movement that slightly deviate from expectation, creating a sense of realism within highly stylized world. This flexibility is important as it keeps the character engaging over time. The character work in the film is designed by its balance between familiarity and nose through the use of the strong archetype and carefully developed personality trait. The film create a cast that feel both accessible and layered. From a reviewer perspective, this balance is what allow the character to resonate, offering more than simple entertainment and contributing meaningfully to the film's overall depth. When discussing the acting performance in the film, it's important to recognize that voice acting carries the full emotional weight of the character. Without physical presence on screen, the actors rely entirely on tone, rhythm, and vocal expression to become animated figure to life. In this film, the performances are not just functional, they are deeply expressive, shaping the emotional texture of the entire experience. At the center of the film is the performance of Antonio Banderas, whose voice in the film, his portrait is rich with personality, blending charm, confidence, and the subtitle vulnerability. Banderas brings a natural musicality to his voice, allowing each line to feel fluid and intentional. There is a warmth in his tone that makes the character immediately likable, but he also introduced slight variation, pauses, shift in pitch, control, intensity that hint at deeper emotional layer. This balance is what makes the performance stand out. It's never feel exaggerated for the sake of animation. Instead, it feels grounded, as if the character's emotions are genuinely lived rather than performed emotionally. Bandra's voice work creates a sense of intimacy with the audience even without visual cues. His delivery communicates confidence and uncertainty in equal measure. This duality allows viewers to connect with the characters on a more physical, personal level. The performance carries a sense of theatrical flair, but it is always anchored by sincerity, preventing it from becoming overly stylized. Equally important is the contribution of the Salma's Hayek, who voices Kaiti Softpaw. Her performance is controlled, precise, and emotionally layered. Hayek brings a calm intensity to the role, using subtitle inflation rather than dramatic shift to convey feeling. This restraint is effective, yeah, as it creates a contrast with the more expressive energy of the lead performances. Her voice carries a sense of confidence and independence, but there is also an undercurrent of guarded emotion that add depth. What stand out in high performance is her ability to communicate complexity through minimalism. She does not rely on overt emotional cues. Instead, she allows small changes in tone to suggest underlying thoughts and feelings. This approach gives the character a sense of realism, making her feel grounded even within a stylized animated world. The supporting cast also play a significant role in shaping the emotional landscape of the film. Zyke Galley Phoenix, who voice Humpty Dumpty, deliver a performance that is both engaging and unpredictable. His vocal style introduces a mix of humor and tension, creating a presence that feels dynamic and layered. Galifianakis uses timing effectively, allowing pauses and shifts in delivery to create emotional variation. His voice carries a certain weight, suggesting complexity without needing over dramatization. From an emotional standpoint, the sporting performances contribute to the overall balance of the film. They prevent the narrative from becoming one dimension by introducing different tonal quality. Each voice feels distinct, yet they all operate within the same emotional framework, creating a cohesive listening experience. A key aspect of the film success lies in the chemistry between the lead actor. The interaction between Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek is particularly effective. Their voices complement each other in a way that feels natural and unforced. Banderas' expressive and fluid delivery contrasts with Hayek's control and measured tone, creating a dynamic interplay that keeps the audience engaged. This contrast enhance the emotional depth of their interaction as each performance highlights different aspects of the tone and rhythm. The chemistry extends beyond simple vocal interaction. It creates a sense of emotional dialogue. Even without visual context, the audience can sense shift in mood and intention through the way the actors respond to each other. Really, this level of coordination suggests a strong understanding of character dynamic, which translate into a more impressive experience. The acting performance in the film are defined by their emotional authenticity and balance. The lead actor brings depth and personality to their role, while the supporting cast add texture and variation. Together, they create a vocal landscape that feels alive, expressive, and emotionally resonant, elevating the film beyond its animated form. When discussing realism and character depth in the film, it is important to move beyond the idea of realism as literal accuracy and instead focus on emotional truth. In an animated world filled with stylized visual and exaggerated personality, realism is achieved through believable motivation, consistent behavior, and a sense of internal logic within the character themselves. This film succeed not by imitating reality directly, but by creating characters whose emotional responses feel grounded and recognizable. At the center of this discussion is character development, particularly in the portrayal of the film. His development is not presented as a sudden transformation but as a gradual process shaped by reflection and the shifting self awareness. The film allows his personality to exist in layers, showing both confidence and vulnerability without forcing a clear divide between the two. This layer approach contributes to a sense of realism as it mirrors how individuals often carry multiple, sometimes conflicting traits at once. What makes this development effective is its subtlety. Instead of relying on overstatement or dramatic changes, the film builds depth through tone, behavior, and interaction. The character evolves in a way that feels organic, suggesting that growth is not about becoming someone entirely new but about refining and understanding what already exists. This perspective aligns with real human experience where development is often incremental rather than immediate. In terms of believability, the film establishes a consistent emotional logic that supports its character even within a fantastical setting. The action and the reaction of the character feel justified within the context of their personalities. This internal consistency is crucial. Without it, its stylized nature of animation could easily undermine the audience's ability to connect. Instead, the films ensure that each character behaves in a way that aligns with their established trait, making their decision feel natural rather than arbitrary. Kitty's softpaws contribute significantly to this sense of believability. Her personality is defined by restraint and control, which is reflected in her measured responses and composed demure. This consistency creates a stable emotional presence that contrasts with more expressive character. Her believability comes from the fact that her behavior does not fluctuate and necessarily follow a clear internal pattern, making her feel grounded despite the stylized world around her. Similarly, Humpty Dumpty add another dimension to the film realism through complexity. His characterization introduces ambiguity, which is a key component of believable human behavior. Rather than fitting neatly into a single category, his personality reflects a mixture of traits that can shift depending on context. This unpredictability does not feel random, instead, it feels rooted in emotional factors that influence his perspective. As a result, his presence adapts to the overall character's landscape. The film's emotional range is another important factor in establishing depth. Rather than maintaining a single emotional tone, it allows character to move across a spectrum of feeling. This range is essential for creating a sense of realism as it reflects the variability of real emotional experience. Characters are not limiting to one dominant trait, they exhibit different emotional responses depending on the situation, which add to their authenticity. For the film, this range is particularly evident. His personality includes moments of confidence, humor, reflection, and the subtitle vulnerability. The ability to shift between these states without losing harness is what makes the character feel complete. Each emotional expression is connected to an underlying consistency, ensuring that the range enhances rather than disrupts the sense of identity. The interaction between the character further reinforces the emotional depth when different personalities come into contact. Their contrasting traits create opportunity for more nuanced responses. These interactions feel believable because they are shaped by established characteristics rather than external demand of the narrative. The result is a dynamic where emotional exchange appear natural and unforced. Another aspect of the realism in the film is its wideness and of extreme. While the characters are expressive, they are not reduced to exaggerated caricature. Even at their most stylized, there is a restraint that keep their behavior within a believable range. This balance allows the film to maintain its playful tone while still offering characters that feel emotionally grounded. Ultimately, the realism and the depth of the films come from the ability to align stylization with emotional authenticity. Through gradual character development, consistent behavior, and a wide emotional range, the films create a sense of believability that resonates with the audience. It demonstrates that realism in animation is not about replicating the physical world but about capturing the emotional truth that define human experience. The production budget of the film can be understood as a carefully measured investment with the broader landscape of the early 2010 animated filmmaking. Estimates place the film cost at approximately $130 million, which positioning it in the mid to high range for major studio animation at the time. This level of spending reflects both the expectation associated with the well-known characters and the technical demand required to achieve a polished visual result. Looking at cost range, animated film during this period typically varied between $70 million and $180 million depending on scale, complexity, and studio approach. In this context, the film sits comfortably in the middle. It does not reach the highest budget tier reserved for large franchise sequels, yet it clearly exceeds lower cost production that rely on simplify animation style. This placement suggests a strategic balance, investing enough to maintain high production quality while avoiding excessive financial risk. A subtitle portion of the budget was directed toward resource allocation in animation and visual production. As a project developed by DreamWorks Animation, the film relies on advanced computer-generated imagery. This involves extensive work in modeling, texturing, lighting, and rendering. Each of these stages requires specialized uh, teams and significant computing resources. This visual style of the film, which embodies an atmosphere and detail, naturally increase production costs due to the time and precision required to achieve consistency across scenes. Another key area of Resource allocation is character animation and performance detail. Animated character, particularly expressive ones like Puss in Boots, demand careful attention, movement, and facial expression. Achieve subtitle emotional cues through animation is a labor intensive progress, often involving multiple revisions and layers of refinement. This contributes significantly to the overall budget as it required both artistic expertise and extended production time. Voice acting and talent involvement also represent an important financial component. The film feature establishes actors such as Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek, whose participation adds both cost and value. Well-known performers typically command higher fees, but their involvement support marketing efforts and enhance the film visibility. In animated production, recognizable voices often serve as a key promotional element, making this allocation a strategic investment rather than a purely creative choice. Additional resources were dedicated to music, sound design, and post production progress processes. These elements, while sometimes less visible, are essential in shaping the film experience. Sound design enhances the sense of environment and movement, while music contribute to tone and atmosphere. Post production include editing, color correction, and final rendering, all of which require time, technical expertise, and financial input. When considering similar film, the budget of the film becomes more clearly defined. For example, Kung Fu Panda 2, released in the same year by the same studio, had a higher budget, reflecting its role as a large-scale sequel with expanded scope. In contrast, Despicable Me operated with a significantly lower budget, demonstrating a more cost-efficient production model that rely on simpler visual design. These comparisons highlight how different studios and projects adopt varying financial strategies based on their goals and audience expectation. Overall, the production budget of the film reflect a balanced and deliberate approach. The allocation of resources prioritize visual quality, character detail, and professional talent while remaining within a controlled cost range. This positioning allows the film to compete with other major animated releases without reaching the highest level of the financial commitment, illustrating a strategic alignment between creative ambition and economic planning. The domestic box office performance of the film can be best understood by looking at its performance within the North America market, primarily the United States and the Canada. In this region, the film earned approximately $149 million, placing it in a solid position among animated releases of its time while not reaching the very top tier of blockbuster earning. This figure reflects a stable and subtitle level of audience interest. From a regional perspective, the North America market is highly competitive, especially for animated film. Major studio release multiple family-oriented features each year, often within course time frame. In this environment, the film benefits from its connection to the broader Shark franchise, which already had a well-known established audience base. This familiarity likely contributed to a strong opening period, as viewers were already aware of the character and the tone. The film domestic earnings also reflect audience trend that was shifting to during the early 2010. At that time, animation audience were beginning to diversify in their preferences. While traditional fairy tale inspired content still held appeal, there was increasing competition from film with more contemporary humor or innovative visual style. As a result, films that rely on existing franchise sometimes experience slightly lower domestic growth compared to entirely new concepts that capture fresh attention. Despite this, the film demonstrated steady performances over time rather than relying solely on an initial surge. This suggests that the word of mouth and repeat viewing play a role in maintaining its earning. Family-oriented films often benefited from its pattern, as parents may take children to see the same film more than once or recommend it with social circle. The film accessible tone and broad appeal likely spotted this sustained engagement. Another factor influencing domestic performances is the age range of the target audience. Animated film typically rely heavily on family attendance, which can be affected by personal timing, school schedules, and competing entertainment options. The film was positioned to attract both younger viewers and adults familiar with the franchise, creating a dual audience effect. This broad demographic reach helps stabilize the box office performance even if it does not produce record-breaking number. When making comparison to similar film, the domestic earning of the film appear moderate but respectable. For instance, Kung Fu Panda 2, released in the same year, achieved higher domestic revenue, reflecting its status as a direct sequel with an established storyline and expanded audience anticipation. On the other hand, Despicable Me had a strong domestic performance driven by its originality and broad comedic appeal, which resonated widely with audience at the time. Within its own franchise context, the film earned less domestically than earlier Shark film, which had benefited from peak popularity and cultural impact. These differences highlight an important trend. Spin-off often perform differently from main series entries. While they can attract existing fans, they may not generate the same level of widespread excitement as core installment. It is also worth noting that domestic box office figures do not fully capture a film's overall success. In many cases, animated films rely heavily on international market and ancillary revenue streams such as home media, streaming, and merchandise. While the domestic performance of the film was solid, its broader financial impact extends beyond North America. The domestic box office performance of the film reflects a balanced outcome within a competitive market. Its earnings demonstrate consistent audience interest supported by franchise recognition and family appeal. While it did not dominate the domestic box office compared to some contemporaries, it remained a steady presence and performed reliably within its category, illustrating the effectiveness of its positioning and audience reach. The international box office performance of the film provides a broader perspective on its commercial reach, particularly when examined outside the North America market. Internationally, the film earned approximately $405 million, significantly exceeding its domestic total. This disparity highlights the growing importance of global audience in the financial success of animated film during the early 2010s. From a regional standpoint, the film performed strongly across multiple territories, including Europe, Latin America, and the part of Asia. In Europe, animated film with fairy tale elements and the stylized storytelling often resonate well due to cultural familiarity with folklore-inspired narrative. The film visual design and tone align with this performance, allowing it to integrate smoothly into this market. In Latin America, the presence of Antonio Banderas as the voice of the film contribute to regional appeal, as audience often respond positive to culturally recognizable voices and accents. This connection can enhance engagement, making the character feel more relatable within those regions. In Asian market, the reception was more varied but still contributed meaningfully to the overall tour. Animated film in these regions often compete with both local production and international releases, creating a diverse and competing environment. The film's strong visual style and clear character-driven approach helped it maintain visibility even if it did not dominate all territories equally. The film benefited from its accessible tone and universal theme. Animated features that rely on visual storytelling and broad emotional appeal tend to translate well across language and culture. Because much of the film humor and expression is conveyed visually rather than through complex dialogue, it retains its effectiveness in dub or subtitle format. This adaptability is a key factor in its international success. Audience reception internationally also reflects a general trend where family-oriented films often perform more consistently across borders than more niche or culturally specific genre. The film emphasis on style, humor, and recognizable character archetype allow it to connect with a wide demographic range. This broad appeal reduces the risk associated with cultural differences, making it easier for the film to achieve stable performances in multiple regions. The role of marketing impact is another important factor in understanding the film's international earning. As a production from DreamWorks Animation, the film benefited from a well established global distribution network. Marketing campaigns were adopted to suit different regions, often emphasizing elements that would resonate more strongly with local audience. For example, promotional materials in some region light-hearted action with visual spectacle, while others focus more on humor or character personality. Additionally, the association with the broader Chic brand play a significant role in international marketing. Even in regions where audience may not follow every installment closely, the recognition of the character and its connection to a successful franchise provide a level of familiarity. This familiarity reduces uncertainty for viewers, increasing the likelihood of attendance. Another aspect of the marketing influence is the use of localized voice casting in certain regions. By incorporating well-known regional factor for dub version, the film enhances its accessibility and appeal. This strategy helps bridge cultural gap, ensure that the film feels relevant to diverse audience. When compared to its domestic performance, the international success of the film illustrates a common pattern in the animation industry, where global market often contribute a larger share of the total revenue. This reflects the increasing globalization of the film distribution and the ability of the animated feature to cross cultural boundaries more easily than many live action genres. The international box office performance of the film demonstrates strong global appeal driven by effective regional positioning, positive market reception, and strategic market effort. Its ability to connect with diverse audience across different territories underscore the importance of international market in shaping the overall success of the modern animated film. When evaluating the overall performance of the film, it is essential to look beyond individual market and focus on its worldview gross in relation to its estimated production and distribution cost. The film achieved a global box office total of approximately $554 million, combining both domestic and international earnings. The figure places it comfortably within the range of commercially successful animated film of its period. From the perspective of the global audience, this total reflects broad international appeal, while the domestic market contribute a meaningful share. The majority of the revenue came from the international territory. This pattern is typical for animated features, which often rely on cross-cultural accessibility. The film visual storytelling, expressive character, and the universal theme allow it to connect with audience across different regions without heavy dependence on language specific humor or dialogue. As a result, its global performance demonstrates the increasing importance of international marketing shaping the success for major studio release. To understand break-even analysis, it is necessary to consider more than just a production budget. Although the film production cost is estimated at around $130 million, this does not represent the total financial investment. Additional expenses include marketing, advertising, distribution, which can significantly increase overall cost. For a film of its scale, marketing and distribution expenses are often estimated to add another $100 million or more, depending on the intensity of the promotional campaigns and the number of markets involved. When combining these factors, the total cost of the film, it is essential to look beyond individual market and focus on a worldview gross. Our studios do not receive the total box office revenue. A portion of the ticket sale is retained by theater, maintaining that the studio share is typically around 50 to 55% domestically and often lower international market. This means that the film generally need to earn roughly 2 to 2.5 times its production budget to reach break-even at the box office level. Applying this model, the film would likely need to generate approximately $300 million to $350 million globally to cover its combined cost, with a worldwide gross of over $550 million. The film surpasses this threshold by significant margin, indicating that it achieved profitability in theatrical release alone. Beyond box office earnings, it is important to consider additional revenue streams which play a crucial role in overall financial success. Animated films in particularly benefited from extended revenue opportunities such as home media sales, digital rental, streaming rights, and television licensing and merchandise. These sources can add substantial values over time, often exceeding initial theoretical profit. For a recognizable character like this, film merchandise and brand related product can be especially lucrative, further strengthening the film's financial position. Distribution costs also factor into the analysis, as realizing a film globally involve logistics such as localization, dubbing, subtitling, regional marketing campaign. These costs vary by territory but are necessary to ensure accessibility and maximize audience reach. The involvement of the DreamWorks animation and its distribution pattern provide the infrastructure needed to manage these complexities effectively. The worldwide gross of the film demonstrates commercial performance when viewed in relation to its total cost structure. By exceeding its estimated break-even point and benefiting from multiple revenue streams, the film presents a financially successful project. A global audience reach and sustained earning potential highlight the effectiveness of its production distribution strategy within the competing animation market. The However, its theoretical revenue is only the part of the equation. A major distribution of the profitability is ancillary income, which play a very important role in animated film. After its cinema run, the film would have generated additional revenue through home media sale, including DVD, Blu-ray, as well as digital rental and purchase. These channels often provide a steady and prolonged income stream, particularly for family-oriented content that remain relevant for repeat viewing. Streaming and television licensing further expand this revenue base as distribution platforms evolve. Films like this continue to earn income through agreements with broadcaster and digital services. These deals extend the film's financial lifespan well beyond its theoretical window, contributing to overall profitability over time. Merchandising is another key factor because the film centers around recognizable and marketable factor like the film. It opened the door to branded products such as toys, clothing, and accessories, while not always including directly in box office calculation. Merchandise revenue can significantly enhance a film financial impact for a studio like the DreamWorks Animation. These extended brand opportunities are an important part of the overall business model. When evaluating return on investment, the film appears to perform solidly rather than exceptionally. It does not reach the highest level of the profitability seen in some breakout animated hits, but it demonstrates a reliable and stable network. The combination of strong international earning, consistent domestic performance, and a diverse ancillary revenue stream result in a positive financial outcome. Another aspect to consider is risk management. The film budget, while substantial, was not at the extreme high end for animated production. This control level of investment reduce financial risk and make it easier to achieve profitability by positioning itself within a moderate cost range while still delivering high production quality. The film balances creative ambition with economic practicality. The films can be considered a profitable film. Its worldwide box office performance succeeded domestic total cost and its long-term revenue stream further strengthen its financial success. While it may not represent the most lucrative animated release of its era, it extends a well-known managed project that achieve a healthy return on investment through a combination of theoretical earning and sustained ancillary income. General audience reaction to the film reflected a broad and generally positive response shaped by its accessibility, character appeal, and entertainment value across the different demographics. The film connected most strongly with family audience, particularly children and parents looking for light, engaging content. Younger viewers respond well to the expressive energy and visual style, while adults appreciate the humor and charm associated with passing boosts. This dual layer appeal helped the film maintain relevance across age group rather than being limited to a single audience segment. In terms of viewers' feedback, many audiences described the film as an enjoyable, stylish, and easy to watch. It was often seen as a refreshing extension of familiar character, offering enough individuality to stand on its own while still retaining recognizable elements. Some viewers highlight the film's smooth pacing and visual presentation as strength, noting that it kept their attention without feeling overly complex or demanding. At the same time, feedback from older audience occasionally suggests that the film leaned more toward entertaining than depth, indicating a preferences for lighter storytelling over heavier thing. Engagement level was steady rather than extreme. The film encouraged repeat viewing among younger audience, a common pattern for animated features, and maintaining interest through its character-driven appeal. Social and casual discussion around the film tended to focus on its style, humor, and personality rather than intense analysis or debate. This suggests that the film succeeded in creating a comfortable and enjoyable viewing experience, even if it did not generate strong controversies or deeply polarized opinion. Audience reaction indicate that the film achieved its goal of delivering widely accessible entertainment. It resonated most effectively with families and casual viewers, offering a balanced experience that encourages positive engagement without demanding heavy emotional or intellectual investment. The box office performance of the film play a very meaningful role in shaping how the film is perceived by both the audience and the industry. Financial success often acts as a signal of relevance and acceptance even before deeper critical analysis is considered. In this case, the film's strong worldview worldwide earning contributor perception if it being a reliable and worthwhile addition to the animated genre. When it comes to the critical reception, box office result can subtly influence how reviewers can interpret it over time. A film that performs well commercially is often viewed more favorably in hindsight, as its popularity suggests that successful connected with audience, while critics may still offer mixed or balanced opinion. Strong earnings tend to reinforce the idea that the film achieved its primary goal of entertainment. For the film, its financial stability support a perception of competence and broad appeal, even if it does not always rank among the most groundbreaking animated film. The film performances also impact the reputation of the studios, particularly DreamWorks Animation. Consistent box office success strengthened the confidence in a studio creative and financial decision by delivering a profitable spin-off based on established character. The studio demonstrated its ability to extend a franchise without significantly diminishing its value. This reinforced the industry trust and support future projects built around similar strategy. In terms of genre comparison, box office result help position the film within the competitive landscape of the animated feature. When compared to the higher grossing or more culturally dominant film, the film may be seen as a moderate success rather than a standout phenomenon. However, its solid earning still place it above many smaller or less successful animated releases. This middle to strong positioning shape perception by framing the film as dependable and wildly appealing, even if it does not redefine the genre. Ultimately, the film's box office performances enhance its overall perception by validating its audience reach and commercial viability. It signals that the film might expectation in terms of entertainment value, reinforcing a view of it as a successful and well-received entry within its category. Puss in Boots stand as a polished and confident animated feature that succeeds more through style and character appeal than through narrative ambition. From a cinematic quality standpoint, The film demonstrates a clear sense of identity. Its visual presentation is refined with strong emphasis on atmosphere, color, and movement. The direction favors a smooth and engaging rhythm, ensuring that the film remains accessible and consistently entertaining without becoming overwhelming. The film Puss in Boots is recommended for viewers seeking enjoyable, stylish animation with broad appeal, while those looking for deeper or more challenging content may find it less fulfilling.